The Galactic Council chambers had never been so silent. Ambassador Kethavar of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the podium, his forearms trembling as he held the datapad containing the intelligence report that would change everything. The holographic display behind him showed grainy footage of a human military installation on some backwater planet called Earth. "Honored delegates," Kethavar began, his voice barely above a whisper. "What you are about to see will fundamentally alter our understanding of the human threat." He paused, looking around at the assembled representatives of 47 different species. Each one had come to this emergency session believing they understood humanity's capabilities. They were wrong. The Korath hegemony's representative, General Vextar, slammed his massive fist on his delegation's table. His reptilian features twisted into what passed for a sneer among his kind. "Ambassador, we've already established that humans are dangerous. Their military conquered 6 star systems in less than 2 standard years. Their soldiers are unpredictable, their tactics unconventional, and their weapons primitive but effective. Why have you called us here to discuss what we already know?" Kethavar's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme nervousness among his people. "General, what you describe represents only their regular military forces. Standard infantry, naval crews, pilots. What I'm about to show you exists beyond their conventional military structure." He gestured to his aide, who activated the holographic projector. The chamber filled with 3-dimensional images of humans, but these were different from the soldiers they had encountered in battle. These moved with a fluidity that seemed impossible for beings bound by standard physics. The footage showed them emerging from shadows that shouldn't have been deep enough to hide a child, let alone a fully grown warrior. They scaled sheer walls without equipment, moved through enemy positions like phantoms, and eliminated targets with a precision that made the galaxy's best assassins look like clumsy amateurs. This footage was captured by one of our deep reconnaissance drones during the Kepler 442 incident, Kethavar continued. "Our intelligence services believed they were observing a human military exercise. We were mistaken. This was a rescue operation conducted by what humans call special forces. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form, pulsed with alarmed light patterns. Impossible. Our analysis of human physiology indicates they should not be capable of such feats. Their bone density, muscle fiber composition, and neural processing speed all fall within expected parameters for a gravity-evolved species." "That's what we thought too," Kethavar replied grimly, "until we discovered that these particular humans have been enhanced far beyond their species' natural limitations. But it's not cybernetic augmentation or genetic manipulation as we understand it. They've developed something else entirely." The footage shifted to show a human soldier removing his helmet. His appearance was unremarkable by human standards, yet the biometric readings displayed alongside the image told a different story. His heart rate remained steady at 60 beats per minute, despite having just completed what should have been an impossible infiltration mission. His body temperature was perfectly regulated despite the harsh environmental conditions. Most disturbing of all, his brain activity patterns showed levels of focus and awareness that exceeded anything previously recorded in any known species. "They call it training," Kethavar said, the word coming out like a curse in his native tongue. "But what they've accomplished defies our understanding of biological limitations. These special forces operatives have somehow pushed their minds and bodies to function at levels that approach what we would consider superhuman." Fleet Admiral Cornus of the Silicon Confederacy's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on the data. "Show us their equipment specifications. Surely their technological advantage explains these capabilities." Kethavar's expression grew even more grim. "That's perhaps the most terrifying aspect of this intelligence. They accomplished everything you've seen using equipment that predates our own technology by several centuries. Projectile weapons firing metal slugs, chemical explosives, optical enhancement devices that require light to function. No energy shields, no quantum communicators, no molecular disruptors. They use technology so primitive that our museum curators would classify it as historical artifacts." The chamber erupted in concerned chatter across dozens of languages and communication methods. The concept that humans could achieve such results with inferior technology challenged every assumption they had made about warfare and tactical doctrine. "How many of these enhanced humans exist?" asked diplomat Yilsha of the aquatic combine, her gills fluttering with anxiety. "Unknown," Kethavar admitted. Our intelligence suggests that these special forces represent only a tiny fraction of their total population. Perhaps 1 in every million humans qualifies for such training. But consider this. Humanity's home planet alone contains over 8 billion individuals. Even if only 1% of 1% of their population serves in these elite units, we're looking at potentially thousands of operatives with capabilities that exceed our best warriors. The mathematical implications hung heavy in the artificially recycled air of the chamber. Every delegate present had served in military or intelligence capacities for their respective civilizations. They understood force multiplication, strategic advantage, and the impact of elite units on warfare. What they were learning about human special forces represented a paradigm shift that none of their war colleges had prepared them for. There's more, Kethavar continued, his voice now barely audible. This footage represents just one type of human special forces. Our intelligence indicates they have multiple specialized units, each trained for different operational parameters. Some focus on direct action and elimination of high-value targets. Others specialize in reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. Still others are trained specifically for operations in environments hostile to most forms of life. He paused, allowing the implications to sink in before delivering the final piece of information that had prompted this emergency session. 3 days ago, long-range sensors detected human ships moving beyond their established territorial boundaries. The vessels were small, fast, and utilized stealth technology we've never encountered before. They disappeared from our tracking systems entirely 12 hours ago. The silence that followed was deafening. Every species represented in that chamber had spent the past 2 years learning to fear humanity's conventional military might. They had adapted their strategies, upgraded their defenses, and prepared for the possibility of human expansion into their territories. Now they learned that everything they thought they knew about human military capabilities represented merely the tip of an iceberg whose true size remained hidden beneath the surface. Where were those ships heading? General Vextar asked, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Kethvar's 3 eyes closed simultaneously, a gesture of resignation among his people. Unknown. But given their trajectory and the timing of this intelligence revelation, we must assume that humanity's special forces are now operating somewhere within our galaxy. The question is no longer whether we can contain the human threat. The question is whether we'll even know they're coming. Captain Sarah Chen adjusted her breathing apparatus one final time before giving the signal to her team. The Korath military installation below them represented the most heavily fortified position in this sector of the galaxy. Its energy shields and automated defense systems supposedly impenetrable. Intelligence suggested otherwise, and Chen's unit specialized in proving intelligence reports correct. Viper team. Sound off, she whispered into her throat mic, her voice barely audible even to herself. Viper 2, ready, came the response from Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez, currently suspended upside down from a maintenance shaft 3 levels below her position. Viper 3, in position, reported Corporal Lisa Park from her overwatch position on a communications tower 2 kilometers away. Viper 4, standing by, confirmed Sergeant First Class David Okafor, who had somehow managed to infiltrate the facility's waste processing center without triggering any alarms. Chen smiled in the darkness. Her team had been together for 3 years, long enough to develop the kind of synchronization that made them appear telepathic to outside observers. Each member brought unique skills to the unit, but more importantly, each had pushed their human limitations far beyond what their species' physiology should have allowed. The Korath facility served as a regional command center, coordinating military operations across 17 star systems. Its destruction would effectively blind enemy forces in this entire sector, giving human forces the operational advantage they needed to secure the surrounding systems. More importantly, it would send a message to the Galactic Council that humanity's reach extended far beyond their official territorial boundaries. Chen had studied the facility's blueprints for weeks, memorizing every corridor, every security checkpoint, every potential point of failure. The Korath builders had designed their installation to withstand direct assault by capital ships, orbital bombardment, and even siege warfare lasting several months. They had not considered the possibility that 4 humans might simply walk through their defenses as if they didn't exist. Viper 2, begin Phase 1, Chen commanded. Rodriguez moved through the maintenance shaft with the fluid grace of a professional dancer. Despite carrying enough explosive charges to level a city block, the shaft was barely large enough for a human to crawl through, and the Korath had filled it with motion sensors, thermal detectors, and pressure plates designed to identify any unauthorized presence. Rodriguez avoided them all with movements so precise they seemed choreographed. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to process sensory information at speeds that would overwhelm an unaugmented human nervous system. He could feel the subtle air currents that indicated the location of each sensor, hear the almost inaudible electronic hums that marked their operational status, and even smell the ozone traces left by their power sources. To Rodriguez, navigating the security grid was like solving a three-dimensional puzzle while blindfolded. "Charges placed," he reported 20 minutes later. "Timers set for your signal." Meanwhile, Park had been busy with her own assignment. From her elevated position, she could observe the entire facility through her rifle scope while maintaining overwatch for the rest of the team. But her primary mission involved something far more complex than simple surveillance. Using equipment that looked primitive compared to Korath technology, she had spent the past hour systematically mapping the facility's communication networks. The Korath used quantum encrypted transmissions that should have been impossible to intercept or decode using human technology. They had not accounted for the fact that Park's enhanced cognitive abilities allowed her to process quantum probability matrices in real time, essentially performing calculations that would require their most advanced computers several hours to complete. "Communication grid mapped," Park reported. "I've identified the primary relay nodes and can disrupt their network on your command. They'll be deaf, dumb, and blind for approximately 47 minutes before backup systems come online." Okafor's assignment had been perhaps the most unpleasant, but strategically vital. The facility's waste processing center connected to every occupied section of the installation, providing him with access routes that bypassed the main security cordons. More importantly, it allowed him to introduce specific chemical compounds into the facility's atmospheric processing system. The compounds were harmless to humans but would cause temporary disorientation and respiratory distress in Korath physiology. Not enough to kill, but sufficient to significantly degrade their combat effectiveness during the critical minutes when Chen's team would be most vulnerable. "Atmospheric contamination, ready for deployment," Okafor confirmed. "Estimated effectiveness duration, 35 to 40 minutes. Chen reviewed the tactical situation one final time. Her team had positioned themselves to simultaneously neutralize the facility's communications, defensive capabilities, and personnel effectiveness. The operation would require split-second timing and flawless execution, but that was exactly what human special forces had been trained to deliver. "All teams, execute on my mark," she commanded. Mark. The facility's night shift had no warning before their world transformed into chaos. The communication blackout occurred first, cutting them off from outside support and internal coordination. The atmospheric contamination began affecting personnel within minutes, causing confusion and panic as guards struggled to understand why they couldn't breathe properly. Finally, Rodriguez's charges detonated in a carefully orchestrated sequence that disabled the facility's primary defensive systems without damaging the intelligence databases Chen's team needed to capture. Chen moved through the facility like a shadow-given substance. Her enhanced reflexes and situational awareness allowed her to avoid the handful of guards who remained functional, while her knowledge of Korath psychology helped her predict their likely responses to the crisis. She reached the central command center just as the facility's commander, General Kraktos, was attempting to activate emergency protocols. "General," she said quietly. Appearing behind him without warning, Kraktos spun around, his forearms reaching for weapons that Chen had already removed from their holsters. His large reptilian eyes widened as he took in her appearance. A human female, barely reaching his shoulder height, wearing equipment that looked like museum pieces compared to his people's advanced technology. "Impossible," he gasped in accented standard Galactic. "Security reported no breaches. Our sensors detected no intruders." Chen smiled, though the expression was hidden behind her tactical mask. "Your sensors were designed to detect ships, vehicles, and large groups of conventional soldiers. You weren't looking for 4 humans who learned how to make themselves invisible to your technology." "What do you want?" Kraktos demanded, though his voice carried less confidence than his words suggested. "Information. Chen replied simply. Specifically, everything in your databases regarding Korath military positions, supply lines, and operational plans for the next 6 months. You can provide that information voluntarily, or my team can extract it from your computer systems after you're no longer in a position to object. The general's eyes darted toward his communication console, then to the emergency alarm that should have been summoning help. Chen noticed the movement and shook her head. Your communications are down, your defensive systems are offline, and most of your personnel are currently too busy trying to breathe to mount any kind of response. In about 30 minutes, my team and I will disappear just as quietly as we arrived, leaving you with a choice. Report this incident to your superiors and explain how 4 humans accomplished what your people believed was impossible, or classify it and hope it never happens again. Kraktos straightened to his full height, his military training overriding his fear. I will never betray my people to human invaders. Chen nodded respectfully. I expected that response, General. It's exactly what I would have said in your position. She gestured to her equipment. Fortunately, we don't actually need your cooperation to accomplish our mission. The data extraction took 17 minutes, during which Chen's team copied the entire contents of the facility's military intelligence databases. The information would provide human forces with tactical advantages that would persist for months, potentially saving thousands of lives on both sides by allowing conflicts to be resolved quickly, rather than through prolonged warfare. As her team prepared to extract, Chen left behind a small device that would transmit a single message to Korath High Command 12 hours after their departure. This facility was compromised by human special forces. No lives were lost because we chose not to take them. Consider this a demonstration of capability, not malice. Future operations may not be as restrained. Admiral Zalthor of the United Fleet Command stared at the tactical display with growing dread. In the past 6 weeks, 17 separate military installations across 4 different star systems had been compromised by what appeared to be human infiltrators. Each incident followed an impossible pattern. Facilities that should have been impregnable were breached without triggering defensive systems. Critical intelligence was extracted or destroyed, and the intruders vanished without leaving any trace of their presence. Show me the Vorthan incident again, he commanded his intelligence officer. Commander, Yexani manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up footage from the mining colony on Vorthan Prime. The colony served as a supply depot for the Galactic Council's military forces, its location supposedly known only to the highest levels of command. The facility had been protected by automated defense grids, energy barriers, and a full battalion of elite troops. As you can see, Admiral, the perimeter sensors never detected any approach, Yexani reported. The energy barriers remained fully operational throughout the incident. Security patrols reported nothing unusual until they discovered that their ammunition stockpiles had been replaced with inert training rounds. Zalthor's tentacles writhed in agitation. The Vorthan operation represented perhaps the most psychologically damaging of all the human incursions. Rather than destroying the supplies or stealing them, the humans had methodically replaced every piece of live ammunition with harmless substitutes. The message was clear. They could have eliminated the entire garrison at any time, but chose instead to demonstrate their complete control over the facility. What about the Nexus Station infiltration? The Admiral asked. The display shifted to show images from the galaxy's most secure communication relay. Nexus Station existed in deep space, surrounded by early warning sensors extending in all directions for several light minutes. Its position was classified at the highest levels, and access required biometric verification from multiple species security services. Even more disturbing, Yexani admitted, the humans somehow gained access to the central communication hub and inserted monitoring programs into our quantum transmission network. Our technicians estimate that these programs had been active for at least 3 weeks before we discovered them. The implications chilled Zalthor to his core. If humans had been monitoring Galactic Council communications for weeks, they possessed intelligence that could compromise operations across dozens of star systems. Every military movement, every strategic discussion, every secret diplomatic negotiation might have been observed by human analysts. How is this possible? Zalthor demanded. Our intelligence reports indicate that human technology remains centuries behind our own capabilities. Their ships are slower, Their weapons are primitive, their computers lack quantum processing capabilities. How are they accomplishing these infiltrations? Before Yexani could respond, the bridge's communication officer announced an incoming priority transmission. Admiral, we're receiving an encrypted message from Supreme Command. Classification level Omega. Zalthor accepted the transmission on his private channel, his expression growing increasingly grim as he absorbed the contents. When the message concluded, he remained silent for several long moments before addressing his staff. I have new orders from Supreme Command, he announced. We are to prepare for Operation Thunderfall, a coordinated strike against suspected human special forces staging areas. Intelligence believes they have identified the source of these incursions. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Operation Thunderfall was a contingency plan developed for use against threats that conventional military doctrine could not address. It involved simultaneous strikes against multiple targets using overwhelming force, designed to eliminate threats too dangerous to engage through normal tactical means. Sir, ventured his tactical officer, are we certain about the intelligence on these staging areas? The humans have demonstrated remarkable ability to conceal their operations. Zalthor's expression darkened. Command believes that these Special Forces operations require extensive logistical support. Specialized equipment, transportation, communication networks, training facilities. Even enhanced humans cannot operate indefinitely without resupply and coordination. Intelligence has identified 3 locations that show patterns consistent with such support operations. The tactical display updated to show 3 star systems on the edge of human territory. Each contained planets that appeared unremarkable from long-range scans, modest colonies, mining operations, or research stations. But deeper analysis had revealed subtle anomalies in their energy signatures, communication patterns, and shipping schedules. The first target is the research station on Kepler 438b, Zalthor continued. Officially, it's a xenobiology facility studying extremophile organisms. However, the station's power consumption exceeds requirements for research activities by approximately 300%. It also maintains communication arrays far more sophisticated than necessary for scientific data transmission. The second target is the mining operation on Ross 128b. The colony reports extracting rare earth minerals, but cargo manifests indicate they're shipping materials consistent with advanced electronics manufacturing. More significantly, their personnel roster includes individuals whose backgrounds suggest military rather than civilian expertise. The third target, he paused, studying the display, is perhaps the most concerning. Gliesa 6667C hosts what appears to be an agricultural colony, but atmospheric analysis indicates the presence of chemical compounds used in weapons manufacturing. The colony's population remains consistently low, despite regular supply shipments that should support a much larger population. Zalthor activated his command console, bringing up the operational parameters for Thunderfall. Each target will be simultaneously engaged by a full battle group. We will not attempt to capture facilities or personnel. Complete orbital bombardment will ensure that no human special forces capabilities survive. His intelligence officer raised a concern. Admiral, what if our analysis is incorrect? These could be legitimate civilian installations. Then we will have destroyed 3 minor human colonies, Zalthor replied coldly. A regrettable but acceptable loss compared to allowing these special forces to continue their operations. Every day we delay, more of our installations are compromised, more of our intelligence is gathered, and more of our strategic advantages are neutralized. The Admiral opened a fleet-wide communication channel. All commands, this is Admiral Zalthor. You will prepare for immediate deployment to Operation Thunderfall coordinates. This operation is classified Omega Black. No communication with any external sources is authorized until mission completion. We launch in 6 standard hours. As the fleet began preparations for what would be the largest coordinated military action against human targets to date, none of the participants suspected that their operation had been compromised before it even began. Deep within the quantum communication networks they relied upon, monitoring programs inserted weeks earlier by human infiltrators recorded every order, every coordinate, every tactical plan. The information flowed through hidden channels to a nondescript facility on a planet the Galactic Council had never identified as significant. There, analysts reviewed the intelligence and reached a disturbing conclusion. The enemy had correctly identified human special forces support facilities, but they had also triggered a response that would demonstrate capabilities the galaxy was not prepared to. Witness. Colonel Jack Morrison reviewed the incoming intelligence data with the calm professionalism that characterized human special forces leadership. His facility, hidden beneath an innocuous agricultural research station, served as coordination center for operations across 3 sectors. The installation contained training facilities, equipment development laboratories, and communication centers that allowed human special forces to maintain their edge against technologically superior opponents. So they found us, he mused to his operations officer. Faster than expected, but we planned for this contingency. Sir, should we evacuate the facilities? The officer asked. Morrison smiled grimly. Negative. We're going to let them come. It's time to show the Galactic Council what human special forces can accomplish when they stop holding back. The attack on the Kepler 438b research station began exactly as Admiral Zalthor had planned. 3 heavy cruisers dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapon systems charging as they achieved optimal bombardment position. The facility below appeared defenseless, its few communication arrays going silent as the first energy pulses struck their targets. Target 1 is responding as expected, reported Captain Veltar from the lead cruiser. No defensive capabilities detected. Beginning systematic destruction of surface installations. Zalthor monitored the operation from his command ship, watching as the research station was methodically reduced to debris. The bombardment continued for 17 minutes, ensuring that nothing larger than a storage container could have survived the assault. Similar reports arrived from the attack groups targeting the mining operation and agricultural colony. All targets neutralized, Zalthor announced to his fleet. Operation Thunderfall has succeeded in eliminating human special forces support infrastructure. We can expect a significant reduction in their operational capabilities. The Admiral's satisfaction lasted exactly 14 minutes. Sir, his communications officer called out in alarm. We're receiving emergency signals from the Meridian defense grid. They report multiple facilities under attack. Zalthor's confidence evaporated as tactical displays updated to show impossible information. While his fleet had been destroying empty buildings on 3 distant worlds, human special forces had simultaneously launched coordinated strikes against 7 major military installations throughout Galactic Council territory. This is impossible, he whispered, studying the incoming reports. Our intelligence indicated that those facilities were their primary staging areas. How are they conducting operations after we destroyed their support infrastructure? His intelligence officer was frantically correlating data from across the theater of operations. Admiral, the attacks appear to be coming from previously unknown human positions. Our estimates of their operational capabilities were apparently insufficient. The scope of the human response became clear as additional reports arrived. The Meridian Defense Grid, responsible for protecting the heart of Galactic Council territory, had lost 3 fortress worlds in simultaneous strikes. Each attack had been conducted by small teams that bypassed orbital defenses, neutralized ground installations, and extracted critical intelligence before vanishing without trace. More disturbing were reports from installations that had not been attacked, but had detected human presence. Automated systems recorded impossible infiltrations, humans moving through sealed corridors, appearing in restricted areas despite active security measures, and accessing classified databases without triggering protective protocols. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission directed specifically at this fleet. Origin unknown. Encryption. There is no encryption. They're broadcasting in clear standard galactic. Put it through, Zalthor commanded, though his voice betrayed growing uncertainty. The main display flickered, then resolved into the image of a human, wearing what appeared to be standard military fatigues. His rank insignia indicated colonel, though Zalthor was unfamiliar with human military hierarchy. The officer's expression was calm, professional, and utterly confident. Admiral Zalthor, the human began, I am Colonel Jack Morrison, commanding officer of the 3rd Special Operations Group. I believe you recently destroyed 3 of our training facilities. Zalthor found his voice. How are you transmitting this signal? Your facilities have been destroyed. Morrison smiled slightly. Admiral, The facilities you destroyed were indeed training centers. However, they represented only a small fraction of our operational infrastructure. We established those positions specifically because we knew they would eventually be discovered. Your attack on them served as the trigger for Phase 2 of our operations. Impossible, Zalthor protested. Our intelligence indicated those were your primary support bases. Your intelligence was correct as far as it went, Morrison acknowledged. Those facilities did support our operations in your territory, but Special Forces doctrine emphasizes redundancy and distributed operations. We don't put all our assets in easily located installations that can be destroyed by orbital bombardment. The display split to show tactical maps of human-controlled space. Dozens of markers appeared, indicating facilities that Galactic Council intelligence had never identified. Some were hidden on planets already known to contain human colonies. Others occupied asteroids, space stations, or installations in systems that appeared empty on official star charts. For the past 18 months, Morrison continued, human special forces have been establishing clandestine bases throughout this region of space. Your attack on our decoy facilities has provided us with justification to transition from covert reconnaissance to active operations. Zalthor stared at the display in growing horror. The tactical situation was worse than his most pessimistic projections. Instead of eliminating human special forces capabilities, Operation Thunderfall had apparently triggered a response that revealed those capabilities to be far more extensive than anyone had imagined. What do you want? The Admiral asked. Withdrawal of all Galactic Council military forces from the disputed border systems. Morrison replied immediately. Cessation of hostile activities against human colonies. Recognition of human territorial claims in the Kepler and Ross sectors. You have 72 standard hours to begin compliance. And if we refuse? Morrison's expression never changed. Then we continue demonstrating our capabilities until you reconsider. Admiral, your people have spent considerable time studying human military doctrine, but you've focused on our conventional forces. You've analyzed our ships, our weapons, our tactics. What you haven't understood is that our special forces don't follow conventional military doctrine. The display updated again, showing real-time footage from across the galaxy. Human operatives were moving through installations that should have been impregnable, gathering intelligence that would compromise Council operations for years to come. More unsettling, some of the footage showed humans simply observing, making no hostile moves but demonstrating their ability to access any facility they chose. Our special forces aren't designed to occupy territory or destroy enemies, Morrison explained. They're designed to make continued resistance impossible. Every secure facility you operate, every classified communication you send, every strategic decision you make can be observed, recorded, or influenced by operators you'll never detect. Zalthor's tactical training helped him understand the implications. An enemy that could penetrate any defense, access any information, and strike any target at will could not be defeated through conventional means. The psychological effect alone would paralyze military operations as commanders lost confidence in their ability to maintain security. You're threatening to wage war against the entire Galactic Council, Zalthor pointed out. No, Admiral. We're demonstrating that we've already won a war you didn't know you were fighting. For months, human operatives have been moving through your territory, studying your capabilities, mapping your installations, and preparing responses to any aggressive action you might take. Your attack today simply activated those preparations. Morrison leaned forward slightly, his tone becoming more serious. The Galactic Council made a fundamental error in assuming that humanity's technological disadvantages would limit our military effectiveness. You focused on our ships and weapons while ignoring our most dangerous capability, the ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to push beyond what should be possible. Human special forces don't need superior technology to accomplish their missions. They need only the ability to think faster, move more quietly, and strike more precisely than their opponents. These are advantages that cannot be countered through better shields, larger ships, or more powerful weapons. The transmission continued for another 10 minutes, during which Morrison provided detailed intelligence about Galactic Council military positions that should have been classified beyond human access. He also demonstrated knowledge of Council strategic plans that had been developed only days earlier, proving that human intelligence capabilities were far more comprehensive than anyone had suspected. When the transmission ended, Zalthor found himself facing a tactical situation for which his training had provided no preparation. The enemy had demonstrated capabilities that made conventional military response ineffective, while simultaneously offering terms that were reasonable enough to consider. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving confirmation of additional human operations throughout Council territory. It appears their demonstration is still ongoing." Zalthor studied the tactical display, watching as markers indicating human activity appeared across dozens of star systems. Each represented an operation that should have been impossible, conducted against facilities that should have been secure, by operatives who apparently moved through Council territory as easily as they moved through their own. "Send a priority message to Supreme Command," he ordered finally. "Operation Thunderfall has failed to achieve its objectives and has triggered an escalation of human special forces activities. Recommend him." Supreme Chancellor Vorthak of the Galactic Council stood before the emergency assembly, his aged features bearing the weight of a decision that would reshape galactic civilization. Representatives from 47 species filled the vast chamber, their voices creating a cacophony of concern, fear, and outright panic as they debated humanity's ultimatum. "Order," Vorthak commanded, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "We will conduct this session with the dignity befitting our positions, despite the circumstances that have brought us here." The chamber fell silent, though the tension remained palpable. In the 3 days since Admiral Zalthor's fleet had triggered humanity's response, reports had flooded in from across Council territory. Human special forces had conducted operations that defied not only military logic, but apparently the laws of physics themselves. "Defense Minister Kolmar, present your assessment," the Chancellor commanded. General Kolmar of the Hegemony Defense Forces activated the chamber's holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of Council space. Red markers indicated confirmed human operations, while yellow markers showed suspected infiltrations. The display revealed a pattern that chilled every observer. "Honored delegates," Kolmar began, his voice steady despite the gravity of his report. "In 72 standard hours, human special forces have conducted confirmed operations at 117 separate installations across 38 star systems. These operations included intelligence gathering, equipment sabotage, personnel capture, and what can only be described as psychological warfare." The display zoomed in on specific incidents. On Altair Prime, human operatives infiltrated our primary military academy and replaced all training ammunition with paint rounds. Cadets discovered the substitution only during live fire exercises. No explanation has been found for how humans gained access to secured armories or knew the precise locations of ammunition storage. On Vega Station, operatives somehow gained access to the central computer core and inserted a program that displays human tactical doctrine on every screen in the facility. Our technicians cannot remove the program without completely rebuilding the computer systems. Most disturbing, on Capella 4, humans infiltrated our prisoner of war facility and extracted 3 human prisoners captured during recent border conflicts. The extraction was accomplished without triggering any security systems or alerting guards until the prisoners were already gone. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. The Capella 4 facility was considered escape-proof, its location classified, and its security systems designed by the most advanced civilizations in the Council. Ambassador Yilmesh of the Crystalline Confederacy rose to speak. "General, how are we to understand these capabilities? Our scientific analysis of human physiology indicates they should not be able to accomplish such feats. Are we facing some previously unknown human subspecies?" Kolmar's expression grew grim. "Intelligence suggests otherwise, Ambassador. The operatives conducting these missions appear to be normal humans, enhanced only through what they call training and experience. Our xenobiologists remain baffled by their capabilities." The Chancellor gestured for attention. "We have received additional intelligence regarding human special forces methodology. Director Zaxlon of Intelligence Services will present his findings." Director Zaxlon approached the podium, his tentacles manipulating data controls with nervous precision. "Honored delegates, our analysis of human special forces training has revealed methods that challenge our understanding of biological limitations. Human special forces training involves systematic conditioning that pushes their minds and bodies beyond normal parameters. They practice scenarios repeatedly until their responses become instinctive. They train in environments that would kill most species, developing resistance to conditions we consider impossible to survive. More significantly, they have developed what they call situational awareness to levels that approach supernatural perception. Human operators can apparently detect threats, opportunities, and environmental changes that our sensors cannot register. The display showed footage captured by automated surveillance systems. Human operatives moved through hostile environments with an uncanny ability to avoid detection, navigate obstacles, and predict enemy movements. Their actions suggested access to information that should not have been available through normal sensory input. "How is this possible?" demanded Fleet Admiral Quintar of the Naval Command. "Our theorists believe it represents an application of human cognitive flexibility," Zaxalon replied. "Humans appear capable of processing vast amounts of subtle environmental data and reaching accurate conclusions through what they call intuition. This allows them to make tactical decisions that appear impossible to predict. Furthermore, human special forces operations emphasize creativity and adaptation. They do not follow rigid tactical doctrine, but instead modify their approach based on real-time assessment of conditions. This makes their actions extremely difficult to anticipate or counter." The Chancellor called for the next briefing. Economic Analysis Division, report on the broader implications of this situation. Economic Minister Thalvor took the podium, his expression reflecting the gravity of his conclusions. "The economic implications of continued conflict with human special forces are catastrophic. Their demonstrated ability to access any facility means that no civilian or military installation can be considered secure. Transportation networks would become unreliable as cargo could be, sabotaged or misdirected without detection. Communication systems would be compromised, making coordination of economic activity impossible. Manufacturing facilities would be vulnerable to disruption that could halt production across entire sectors. Most critically, the psychological impact on our populations would be devastating. Citizens cannot function effectively when they believe hostile operatives might be present in any location at any time. The social and economic fabric of our civilizations would unravel." The chamber erupted in concerned discussion as delegates contemplated the implications. The human ultimatum had included territorial concessions that seemed reasonable compared to the alternative of continued special forces operations. Ambassador Kethvar rose to address the assembly. "Honored Chancellor, I submit that we must consider humanity's terms not as a defeat, but as a recognition of new realities. These humans have demonstrated capabilities that make continued resistance futile. Are you suggesting surrender to a species barely emerged from their home system?" demanded General Vextar. "I suggest acknowledging that military superiority is not determined solely by technology," Kethvar replied. "Humans have developed capabilities that our science cannot explain, and our military doctrine cannot counter. Continued conflict serves only to demonstrate our inability to address this threat." The debate continued for hours as delegates struggled with concepts that challenged their fundamental understanding of warfare and civilization. Some argued for research into countermeasures, others for technological development that might level the playing field. A few suggested retreat from human-controlled space entirely. Finally, the Chancellor called for silence. "We have heard all perspectives. The reality is simple. Humanity has demonstrated the ability to operate within our territory at will, gather our intelligence, disrupt our operations, and threaten our security. These capabilities cannot be countered through conventional means. The question before us is not whether we can defeat human special forces, but whether we can coexist with a species that possesses such abilities. I believe that cooperation offers better prospects than conflict. The vote, when it came, was closer than many expected, but decisive nonetheless. 26 civilizations voted to accept humanity's terms, 18 opposed and 3 abstained. The Galactic Council would officially recognize human territorial claims, withdraw military forces from disputed systems, and enter into negotiations for a comprehensive treaty. As the assembly dispersed, delegates carried with them a new understanding of humanity's place in galactic civilization. They had learned to fear human conventional forces, but human special forces had taught them something far more significant: That technological superiority meant nothing against opponents who could redefine the rules of engagement entirely. The message transmitted to human authorities was brief and formal, but it represented a fundamental shift in galactic power structures. For the first time in Council history, terms had been accepted not because of military defeat, but because continued resistance had become impossible. Colonel Morrison received the message at his hidden command center, surrounded by displays showing Special Forces operations across dozens of star systems. His operators had accomplished in 3 days what conventional military doctrine suggested would require months of campaign. "Stand down Phase 2 operations," he ordered. "Transition to monitoring and intelligence gathering. Let them know we're still here, but give them time to adjust to the new reality." The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's military might, but they had just discovered that humanity's true strength lay not in their ships or weapons, but in their ability to make the impossible seem inevitable. 6 months after the Galactic Council's acceptance of human terms, Ambassador Sarah Martinez stood in the newly constructed human embassy on Galactic Capital Prime, preparing for what would be the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. The conference room's windows offered a view of the massive city that served as the administrative center for 47 different civilizations, a testament to the Council's ability to coordinate diverse species toward common goals. Today's meeting would determine whether humanity would join that cooperation or remain forever on its periphery. "Ambassador," her aide announced, "the Council delegation has arrived." Martinez straightened her formal diplomatic attire and reviewed her briefing materials one final time. The past 6 months had been a period of careful rebuilding of trust between humanity and the galactic community. Human Special Forces operations had ceased their active phase, transitioning to monitoring and intelligence gathering that, while still undetectable, no longer included disruptive activities. The Council delegation entered led by Supreme Chancellor Vorthak, accompanied by representatives from 12 major civilizations. Martinez noted that several of the delegates appeared nervous, despite the formal nature of the proceedings. The memory of human capabilities was still fresh in galactic consciousness. "Chancellor Vorthak, honored delegates," Martinez began, offering the formal greeting appropriate to Council protocol. "On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to our embassy, and thank you for this opportunity to discuss our species' future relationship with the galactic community." Chancellor Vorthak responded with equal formality, though Martinez detected subtle signs of continued uncertainty in his manner. "Ambassador Martinez, we gather today to explore the possibility of human membership in the Galactic Council, despite the unusual circumstances that have brought us to this point. The negotiations that followed were unlike any in galactic history. Typically, species seeking council membership underwent decades of evaluation, gradual integration, and careful assessment of their ability to contribute to galactic civilization. Humanity's application was being fast-tracked not because of their technological contributions or cultural achievements, but because their military capabilities made exclusion more dangerous than inclusion. "The Council has reviewed humanity's formal application," announced Minister Kolmar, "and we find your species technically qualified for membership. Your civilization demonstrates scientific advancement, stable government, and the ability to contribute to galactic society. However," he continued, "the unique nature of your military capabilities raises questions that must be addressed before membership can be approved. Specifically, how can member civilizations trust that human special forces will not be used to influence Council decisions or threaten member species?" Martinez had anticipated this concern. "Minister, I understand your apprehension. Humanity proposes the establishment of a joint oversight committee that would monitor Special Forces activities and ensure they remain within acceptable parameters. Additionally, we offer to share certain intelligence capabilities with Council security services." The offer sent murmurs through the delegation. The possibility of gaining access to human intelligence-gathering capabilities was tempting, but it also raised questions about the extent of those capabilities. What limitations would humanity accept on Special Forces operations within Council territory? Asked Ambassador Yilmesh. "We propose restrictions on active operations within the sovereign territory of Council members," Martinez replied. "Intelligence gathering for mutual security purposes would continue, but disruptive activities would require Council authorization. In exchange, We expect Council recognition of human territorial claims and assistance in addressing external threats. External threats had become an increasing concern for both humanity and the Council. Long-range sensors had detected evidence of hostile civilizations beyond the galactic rim, species that appeared to view the existing galactic community as a target for conquest rather than cooperation. Humanity's unique military capabilities might prove essential for addressing such threats. The Void Hunters, Chancellor Vorthak said quietly, naming the hostile forces that had begun probing galactic defenses. Our intelligence indicates they possess technology that exceeds even our most advanced capabilities. Conventional military doctrine may prove insufficient against such opponents. Martinez nodded gravely. Human analysts have reached similar conclusions. The Void Hunters appear to operate according to military principles that prioritize total destruction over conquest or negotiation. Our special forces may represent the only effective counter to their infiltration and sabotage capabilities. The discussion turned to practical matters of integration. How would human representatives participate in council voting? What role would humanity play in existing galactic institutions? How would conflicts between human interests and council decisions be resolved? We propose a graduated integration process, Martinez suggested. Initial membership with limited voting rights, expanding to full participation as both sides adjust to the new relationship. This would allow the Council to evaluate humanity's commitment to cooperative governance while allowing humans to demonstrate their value as allies. The negotiations continued for 3 days, addressing everything from trade agreements to cultural exchange programs. Throughout the discussions, Martinez was aware that human Special Forces operators were almost certainly present in the building, monitoring the proceedings and ready to respond to any threat against humanity's diplomatic mission. The irony was not lost on her that humanity's most dangerous capabilities were enabling their most peaceful objectives. On the final day, the delegates reached agreement on the framework for human membership. The treaty that emerged represented compromises from all parties, but also established principles that would govern humanity's relationship with the galactic community for generations to come. The Galactic Council hereby extends an invitation for humanity to join as a provisional member, Chancellor Vorthak announced formally. Full membership will be considered after a probationary period of 5 standard years, during which time human representatives will participate in council deliberations and humanity will contribute to galactic security and prosperity. As Martinez signed the historic treaty, she reflected on the unlikely path that had brought humanity to this moment. Fear of human military capabilities had forced the galaxy to consider cooperation, but it was humanity's willingness to use those capabilities responsibly that had made cooperation possible. The signing ceremony was broadcast throughout human space, marking humanity's transition from galactic newcomer to recognized member of the interstellar community. In hidden facilities throughout the galaxy, human Special Forces operators received new orders. Their mission was no longer to demonstrate humanity's capabilities, but to protect the fragile peace that made galactic civilization possible. Colonel Morrison watched the ceremony from his command center, surrounded by displays that showed Special Forces positions throughout Council space. His operators had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had forced their way into the galactic community through superior capability, then used that position to build genuine cooperation rather than impose dominance. New orders for all units, he announced. Transition to Phase 3 operations. Priority mission: protection of Council installations and member species from external threats. Secondary mission: intelligence gathering on Void Hunter capabilities and intentions. Tertiary mission: demonstration to Council allies that human Special Forces are assets rather than threats the galaxy had learned to fear. Humanity, when their conventional forces proved unexpectedly effective against superior technology. That fear had intensified when human Special Forces demonstrated capabilities that defied understanding. But now, for the first time, galactic civilization would learn what human capabilities could accomplish when directed toward protection rather than conquest. In the months that followed, human Special Forces would prove their value beyond question. Void Hunter infiltration attempts that should have succeeded were detected and neutralized by human operators. Intelligence networks that threatened Council security were dismantled by teams that could move through hostile territory, undetected. Diplomatic crises that might have led to war were resolved through information and capabilities that only human special forces could provide. The galaxy had feared humanity's arrival, then feared their special forces even more. But ultimately they would learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their ability to wage war, but their dedication to earning the trust necessary to ensure that such wars would never be necessary. As Ambassador Martinez concluded her remarks at the signing ceremony, her words would be remembered as the foundation of a new era in galactic civilization. Humanity seeks not to dominate the galaxy, but to help ensure that the galaxy remains a place where diverse species can thrive together. Our special forces will serve not as conquerors, but as guardians of the peace that makes such cooperation possible. The fear remained, but it had transformed into something more valuable. Respect for capabilities employed in service of mutual prosperity, rather than individual dominance. T.